Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Happy Monday edition of Trade the Chain. You see, there's no smiles on CJ's face. He doesn't smile till it's after hump day, Monty. Anyway, guys, it's August 23rd. Thank you for joining us. Before we get started, just want to let you know, as usual, anything we say, we talk about, analyze, vocalize, does not constitute financial advice at all from any of us at Market Rebellion or Trade the Chain. That being said, just want to let everybody know crypto is always going to go up, never down. I'm just joking. CJ, what's happening with you today? Anything exciting?
Me personally, no, but the market, yes.
All right. Well, let's do it. Let's dive right in, man.
Cool. I do want to talk traditional markets because getting quite the run. And I want to be very clear. I know we've had certain analysts talk about 70 to 80% retracements in the equity market. I don't hold that conviction at all. I think we're going to actually keep going higher now, especially that the Delta variant has seemingly peaked. One thing that I did want to bring up from our buddy Carl is some recent data. And I did show this morning, but I want to get back to this chart. Here we are, the 7-day COVID Delta in cases, the 7-day average for the largest counties in Florida since June. And as we can see, we have pretty much peaked here within those last 3 weeks. And this increase, this blue to like lavender color that you saw all throughout the start of July and late July, that was the fear coming into the equity market. And that was the fear, I think, also bleeding into the crypto market a little bit. And we can see that, last week and in the previous close, we had extreme fear in the equity market fear and greed index. And so when you have that, that's typically a contrarian indicator. And I can't believe how scared people were that we had merely just pulled back to the moving average. And what we had said last week on a very technical basis was that if we get a bullish engulfing candle off of the 20 smooth moving average on the daily chart, then we will enter off of that bullish engulfing candle. And ever since then, you can see we've had 2 days of really nice price action in the S&P and are now into new all-time highs in both that and the NASDAQ. So quite some impressive movements in the equities. See, Dow is still lagging a little bit behind, but close to some new all-time highs as well. NASDAQ is already there and is cleared with a beautiful bullish engulfing candle. So I still see this strong trend continuing into the fall and potentially winter. And I think this gives Bitcoin some runway to finish stock to flow because so many individuals have been forecasting this, doomsday scenario or decline. I don't see it. I don't see it being consistent with the fundamentals of the equity market. I see us in terms of liquidity and what the Fed has done to the market. We're almost in a period very comparable to like 2010, following a depression like 2008 or 2009. So that's kind of where I stand on the equity market and just wanted to make that very clear because I know there was some who were concerned about that. But going into Bitcoin, obviously that peak in the COVID variant is helping a lot with, positive sentiment coming back to the market. But also I wanted to highlight this Elliott wave formation that we had talked about last week because it's pretty much played out to this extent. Of course, we're finding some resistance now at 51K. But due to that liquid supply shock in the markets, I think we're going to keep going up. There's just been so much supply sucked out of the open market during this accumulation period, during this selling climax right here, and through all of that negative to downward consolidation we felt the past prior months. And this is where technical analysis is, it's obviously always useful, but it requires different interpretations. Like I remember when the technicians up here, and not trying to, place any blame, this was myself included, but in our initial rally up here, we were looking at things like the RSI and we were looking at technical metrics that would indicate overbought metrics. And, we saw that. We were saying, okay, we went right back up to 19 or 20K. Like we're probably going to correct. But as you can see, there was such an illiquid supply shock from May 2020 halving that the market didn't care about that. And those who were waiting for a pullback to say 15K at this level were completely left in the dust as Bitcoin ascended to nearly 40,000. So I think that's an interesting thing to kind of keep in mind. We've had over a month or two here for larger entities and bigger players to accumulate. Now we've undergone a clear change, and I believe we're beginning a markup phase in the overall market. So that's why I'm not necessarily leading for a pullback, and I'm leaning more towards bullish price action. Ultimately, if we break this 51K target, I think our next target is 56K. That's really going back to that classic Fibonacci level, and that's really all we've got based, until all-time highs. So I could go on. I mean, you're probably noticing I'm pretty excited today and talking a lot, but before I take up too much time, I'm going to pass it back to you, gentlemen.
Monty, dig in. What do you got?
Yeah, no, CJ made some really great points there, and I just want to expand on two of them in particular because, he mentioned that the S&P is showing strength and that he doesn't think that, there's any reason why there should be a correction over the next few months. I completely agree with him, and I think that that was the one thing that was holding a lot of honey holes. That's something we haven't heard in a very long time. It's a throwback right there, Daryl. Thank you. But, I think that was kind of the one thing that was causing a bit of reluctance in the crypto market is the possibility of a greater equity markets correction. And that was the one thing I think that could have stopped Bitcoin from coming to parity with the stock to flow model, like CJ mentioned. Now that, that fear has kind of been quelled, we bounced from that moving average once again. I think that, it kind of clears the way for Bitcoin to run and finally come to parity with that, stock to flow model that we've all been watching very closely. So I really like what we're seeing in terms of potential price action for the next couple of weeks. And also, CJ, I think you made a great point in referencing kind of that period in October to December of 2020 and kind of how that compares to now. I think that is a good comparison. And there are some, strong analogs between those two time periods. If you look at this period of time right here from about May of this year to August or to like July, the middle of July, this was a great time for institutional accumulation. And that's exactly what we saw. And that speaks to that illiquid supply shock that you mentioned, CJ. When we have these major institutions accumulating, that's typically a foreshadowing of a move that's, a steady move up. And that's exactly what we saw back here in October to November of 2020. October to December really was the months in which institutional interest in the space was more or less the defining factor. You're looking at things like CME open interest, climbing to all-time highs. It actually reached its all-time high right here in January. But I think that the building open interest indicative of institutional, speculation was a key to like foreshadowing this right here. And we're seeing a very similar thing happen in this point of time. Institutions are gobbling up the Bitcoin and moving it off of exchanges, creating a sort of artificial supply shock. And I think that really creates this strong uptrend that even if demand, stays constant, we're still going up because supply is just being taken off the table constantly by these big players. So, last week we talked about Coinbase putting 500 million on their balance sheet. I think that that's a trend that's going to continue to emerge over the next few months as we'll see institutions speculating on Bitcoin. And that really bodes well for the end of the year.
It takes time for funds to get into the market. Like just going through that process and setting up a fully regulated crypto fund and having custodians and getting licensed by BitGo, all that stuff takes a very long time. So I think institutions are still trying to get in and are in the process of getting in. I can see it firsthand. So I think that speaks to your point as well, Monty. Sorry to cut you off, Alex. What's up?
No, you did not. You did not cut me off at all. And, the fund business is a tough business right now in this market. I think there's more interest now that, this number is, getting more and more above 2 trillion and staying above there. Think about it, guys. We were 1 trillion less than this just 2 months ago. That's remarkable. Also, check this out. Cardano, number 3. You remember the old days, guys, when it used to be Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple, Bitcoin Cash? The lineup has changed, and it's interesting to see the maturity of the market as time goes on. But let's talk about ADA real quick. Whoops, wrong chart. Let's give me your thoughts on Cardano. I mean, 6 months ago, a lot of pessimism around there, but they had a growing community. And then you go back a year ago, it was a nothing burger. But Monty, you got something you want to share?
Yeah, no, I was just basically going to mention, a lot of people have been looking at this Cardano chart and wondering to themselves, should I take money off the table here? I mean, when you see this sort of move into all-time highs, skepticism is natural. We got this big barrier here at $3, obviously a psychological hurdle for Cardano, and I'm sure we'll see a lot of profit taking, we already are seeing a bit of profit taking happen at this level. But I think what's important to remember for Cardano is this is an asset that has been waiting for utility for the longest time. And even without any clear-cut utility, this thing has managed to kind of remain in the crypto conscious of everyone on Twitter. And, it has remained up there in terms of market cap. Obviously, now this thing is approaching $100 billion in market cap, making it, right on the verge of being a mega cap asset here. And I think that there's no reason why Cardano can't continue to run. People are, when you look at this chart, expectation of a pullback is natural. But fundamentally speaking, I think that Cardano is still, in the process of finding its value. We have this Alonzo upgrade coming in, and Rob on Digital Asset News has talked a lot about this. But, there is lots of development happening in anticipation of this upgrade. And I think that we could see some, real utility hit Cardano right away when these smart contracts are introduced. So, I think that this thing could continue to run. I would advise you, if you want to trade into this thing, or if you're currently riding this, keep a tight stop here. CJ talked about changing, your stop losses when the market's ripping, and I think that's really important with an asset like Cardano right now. You can trade into this thing because I do believe in its potential in the coming weeks. Especially with the timing we have in the market cycle, I think this Cardano could be a heavy benefactor of retail speculation. So, if you want to trade in this thing, keep a tight stop. And, there's no reason why I think this thing, can't keep running. So the next significant hurdle is $3. If it gets above that, I would be all aboard this Cardano train.
Well, let me, that was very good. Let me ask you this, Monty. We're just shy of that $3 mark. It is an ecosystem, token here. It's its own chain. What, for the people looking to take profit, which is always allowed. It's everybody's own situation. But what are we talking about as far as potential? I mean, what if Cardano, with all the players that are getting into the ecosystem, the launch pads and everything like that, are we talking about $100 token? I'm saying this, I don't want anybody to laugh, but remember when Ethereum was $1 or $2 or $3? Are we talking that a Cardano could get that big?
I mean, the market cap's right now like what, 92 billion? I mean, I don't think we go over $1 trillion with Cardano in this market cycle. I don't think it goes above $10. I think there's something really interesting, which is the fact that if you look at Google Trends and for the term Bitcoin, it's still very low. It peaked in May, when we peaked at 65K. But ever since then, it's just fallen and it hasn't increased at all. Yet we have things like Luna, things like ADA, and some of the DeFi ecosystems just going absolutely parabolic. Yet retail capital is not in the space yet. The thing that's interesting is that my friends are not calling me saying, CJ, is now a good time to buy Bitcoin? I should have listened to that counter indicator back in May. But nevertheless, we're not seeing that right now, which I think is interesting to Monty's point, which is like, how long can this go on for? And I think it can keep going on and the train can keep rolling, so to speak. You just have to keep in mind, the higher price goes, the higher risk entry in the short term becomes. This is not something that I would say I would want to get in on and then just hold. Like there has to be an exit strategy after after an asset goes this parabolic. But at the same point, when you get in, being right and sitting tight is one of the most difficult things to do as a trader. But that's really where all the money is made. It's not the thinking that makes you the money. It is the sitting.
Discipline. Real quick, just want to hit some popular tickers here. We got StormX. I don't know if you guys noticed, but StormX is making a huge push over the last couple of weeks. They've been tearing up Instagram with daily ads like nobody's business. I mean, they've just been posting and posting. Also stepping up their Twitter as well to remind everybody all the different partnership cashback reward opportunities there are. There was one about like booking trips the other day, and I think they sent out multiple different ad tweets on that. So StormX, what do we have? What are your guys' thoughts on this for going into fall and Q4?
Yeah, so full disclosure, I do hold StormX, but I remain bullish on this thing. You know, it's still 6 cents off its previous all-time high when it climbed up to almost 10 cents there. And yeah, I've said this a few times as well, but you know, this is an asset that didn't give back everything when it came down from this all-time high. A lot of assets, you know, the only value you can really look at is their price action. StormX is different because, you know, they have an app that you can track downloads. They have, you know, a staking pool where you can see how much is staked. And to your point, Alex, about partnerships, I think that's something they've been doing tremendously well over the past 6 months as well. You know, they got this partnership with the Portland Trail Blazers. Definitely won't hurt to see their logo on the front of their jerseys this fall. So yeah, no, I think that StormX will reach its all-time high by end of year and actually go far above it, because in terms of, you know, utility, it's clear cut, which is important to the retail crowd. It's got a good leader in Simon, and I like the partnerships they've been making.
CJ, what's your input?
If you look at the beginnings of parabolic runs, like what we saw in VGX back during the winter and what we saw in StormX when it went up to 8 cents, is you get a big spike. And that big spike is a result of a massive surge of volume, which is indicative of a whale or some very larger player coming into the market, maybe in some cases an institution. I don't know if that's the case with these smaller assets. I think it's probably just a whale or a larger buyer coming in. Nonetheless, when you see that, that's something that is almost like a spark of ignition that gets the car started, and then it just cruises and really goes parabolic. I don't think StormX has had that yet. It's trended quietly. It's had a lot of user growth and the fundamentals are strong. The market just doesn't necessarily care yet. We still need to see a massive surge of volume. And I think if that occurs, we'll get new all-time highs by the end of the year, potentially 25 cents, potentially 20 cents, something like that. I don't own any StormX, but I do think it's very interesting. Also, I saw some in the comments, somebody mentioning FTX token. I think that I would love to see Pat Ackerman dive into Metcalfe's Law on FTX. I mean, that's a killer exchange. We talked this morning about how they just closed a deal about $17.5 million to rename the Cal Berkeley Stadium where that football team plays to FTX Stadium or whatnot. So that's a one with a giant network effect. Also, Huobi token, HT. So I think all of those concepts you can apply Metcalfe's Law to, and might be some really interesting opportunities here going forward in the next 6 months. Long answer to my StormX, but yeah.
I like it. Just want to show folks real quickly the VGX chart. Spent some time on Twitter Spaces with a bunch of you guys. It was awesome to chat with you all the other day. Here's what the Voyager token's looking like. VGX, you can see right here this choppiness. This is when there was some suspension of trading going on during the swap. So this is, you know, some very inaccurate, dislocated pricing. But you could see during that swap, look at this big bulge of green in sentiment as people were talking and looking for anticipating the swap completion. There was an over amount of it, so we can obviously see naturally it's receded a little bit. It's gradually coming back up to where I believe it's going to be very positive as we go into the September 1 VLP swap. Before we get to, I know CJ wants to bring up an altcoin real quick to kind of chat about. Just want to take a look at what's happening today real quick with the altcoins. On the daily sentiment, we got AVAX up in there. We have Loopring, Amp's been a favorite. Let's see the 30-day change. Who are some of the outliers for 30-day? Request Network has been a powerhouse. I don't know if you guys have been following REQ, but Request Network got a few listings over the course of the past 2-3 weeks. 439%, Avalanche 300%. That's incredible. And then, of course, Terra Luna, what CJ was alluding to earlier with Monty, 250% there. So some really good gains to be had since we started the uptick. And I just, listen, it's the last week of summer. It's the slowest time of the year. Let's get back at it in September, man. Let's go parabolic. CJ, what do you say?
I'm ready to welcome home all of the Wall Streeters from the Hamptons. Come back. Join us. The market is primed. Let's do this.
Oh, my gosh. All right. You guys want to talk about Engine real quick? Ticker ENJ?
Yeah, I think we had some questions on both Engine and Mana, but I will go over these in just a second here. Let me pull up the charts.
Well, there's big news this morning, Alex. I know you and the Trade the Chain boys are well aware with your obsession with NFTs, but Visa purchased an NFT. So NFTs have been all the rave today.
Don't forget, folks, Badass Bulls. They're probably one of the hottest NFTs in town. Badass Bulls. I am showing them officially right now.
So what I like to do, and yeah, I noticed you changed your profile picture. Oops, sorry. I noticed you changed your profile picture, so very cool, Alex.
That's the first time you've ever called me cool, so I'm taking that as a compliment.
Probably the last time, too.
Yeah, but using the fib tool, the way that you can create these retracement levels and know a really nice support and resistance is to start at the candle body of the uptrend in May or April, depending on where the asset topped, and then go all the way down to the bottom of the candle body of where we bottomed, whether that be in June or just recently in July. And so that extrapolates not only current resistance targets, but also future price targets. Like the 1.618 level was actually very accurate for Bitcoin. And you see with Engine, that lines up at about $5.11. And so these are some levels I would definitely watch, but there is really no weakness yet. We're not seeing any decreases in volume. We're still seeing the start of a bullish trend and something that I think looks very promising going into the remainder. Now, as you'll notice, market's coming down a little bit here. Can always give a little bit back in the short term, but overall, the overwhelming trend I think is extremely positive, especially with Visa taking that action that you mentioned as well. Chili's, little bonus one here. I mean, really looks like the same chart, except it had a stronger uptrend to begin with. But Monty, did they close another big deal? Was that something you had mentioned as well this morning?
That is correct. Yes, they announced a partnership with the Sacramento Kings, which is their first foray into NBA. They already have expansive partnerships in soccer and also in the UFC, but now with the NBA as well.
Are the Kings even that good nowadays? They should have went after like the Bucks or.
Well, the Kings aren't great. Probably the worst team in California, but they're okay. They got some talent.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend any Sacramento viewers, but
you also got to think about the city, CJ. Milwaukee or Sacramento. Sacramento seems more in tune with crypto than Milwaukee, but.
Nobody talked about the Bucks, 5 years ago. Now all of a sudden it's all Bucks.
Oh yeah. It's only Giannis has brought them there. But moving on to Decentraland, I mean, it's really the same pattern all throughout. The only thing that differs is the percent or log gain. And so if you want to judge that by market cap and see which one could potentially have the largest gain by percentage, then that's something you can do and look at these assets based on your personal risk tolerance. I think that Decentraland is still likely going to trend. It hasn't been as explosive as Engine or Chili's. Nevertheless, I think it's starting that quiet sideways uptrend, very similar to StormX almost. Like we had the W bottom that got put in, and now we're kind of a sleeping giant right here, possibly just kind of moving up with the moving average here. But that's my short-term view on the NFT plays.
I like it. Just you talk about a trend. Look at that trend right there happening with sentiment just spiking up and price following it on the 7-day. Zooming in, yeah, I think it's Engine is definitely getting happier. CJ's breaking out into a smile right now. CJ's got, or CJ pointing out Chili's. Chili's is an interesting one. I think, for Chili's, they're going to be, I think, pretty aggressive in getting into the sports arena case. I think we're going to see a lot more sponsorship come, hopefully depending on their money, because they do the NFTs for, the Premier League, right, Monty? Isn't it the, yep. So
yeah, the Premier League and a bunch of other leagues. And yeah, no, I completely agree, Alex. Like, think about, this is such a cool application of crypto, like this fan token idea. Like in Europe, the fans can vote on what jerseys the team wears, what, chants the fans do during the games, like all sorts of different things. There's infinitely many applications, and, sports teams are always looking for ways to engage their fans. So yeah, this just seems like a perfect fit.
Maybe they'll have it for YouTubers who talk about the markets. Well, the Monty fan token. What do you? Here we got Mana, and again another uptrend with the price there and the sentiment. It's just, I'm just bullish about it. I just really, and listen, I'm not just because I use the word bullish. I'm not trying to, shill badass bulls, which are a good NFT.
Yes, you are.
But you will mention them. We'll mention them.
I will mention them. All right, guys. What else we got? Anything else going on for this Sleepy Monday? All right. Folks, there it is. Definitely don't forget, in description, Daily Crypto Bite. Every morning, Monday through Friday, it's the alarm clock that wakes these gentlemen up each trading day. Also, don't forget to visit marketrebellion.com/crypto in the description as well. And of course, tradethechain.com. We appreciate everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow. So hang on to your handlebars, folks.